All right, y'all. Welcome to the next installment of the Dismount podcast. And today we are discussing labels. Get in the box.
Who came up with that? I don't think I even knew that was it.
Damn.
Get in the box.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?
I obviously missed the get in the box of the hockey jerseys today, but we'll
To be fair, if
I
two
was
of us played
always
hockey-
planning on wearing
I'm
this.
just messing with you.
if the three of us played hockey, Derek and I would always be in the box
Yeah.
constantly.
In the box.
Yep.
Yeah. What kind of hockey player would you be?
Oh, exact same as lacrosse. I'd be hitting people in the helmet on accident, and they'd be getting pissed off and trying to fight me.
You the enforcer.
Yeah, he'd be
Yeah,
enforcer.
I'd
Yeah.
come over to stop the play, and then they'd be like, hey, if you leave your stick there, I'll hit your stick instead of your head. They're like, fuck you, man. I'm like, hey, just saying, you moved your stick and you moved your head in the way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I started the swing at your stick.
Get in the box.
Get in the box. All right, y'all. We're discussing labels. Get in the box. And today's episode outline is: which labels do you subject yourself to? Do you feel like a self-author, or do you subscribe to the narrative that other people inflict onto you? Do you hold any values relating to social etiquette and empathy? Are there any value systems that need to be thrown out? Once you recognize other people have independent needs, can you understand your own value system and then challenge your value system and society's value system? What is left? Oh shit, that one's a doozy. this one.
How did you
absolutely
manage to
rocked
come
my
up with
world.
like 6 questions in one question?
Yeah, dude, this
I
one was
like,
wild. And can you get rid of any of? Can you get rid of any of it? Honestly, what the fuck? Holy crap, that one was a doozy, dude. The one before it too, of like what value systems to throw out, had me spinning. I didn't write anything down in the notes. I was like, what the
The
hell?
buzzer ran out on Zach.
Buzzer ran out hard. And then last but not least, how does one get to a point where they can cherry pick value systems and supersede society's pressure to make them conform? All right, fire it up. Tit, what type of labels do you subject yourself to?
So I have, in my response, I wrote that I kind of fall back on a lot of core labels. And I started to read yours, so I think it's probably pretty similar. It's like, you know, I accidentally like had a Freudian slip and like wrote father in there. We're not like having a baby right now, but I put down that and I was like, oh, that's a weird thing. Like, you know, it's in my subconscious. So, you know, it's because I want to be a father. And I'll explain how that ties into this towards the end of the episode. But husband, brother, son, grandson, nephew, I almost wrote niece on there. But all these things, they lead up to the kind of people that are really important to me. Like you guys are very important. Trisha's very important. One that I wrote in the last minute because it's a new one is son-in-law. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm even a step son-in-law and I'm a step grandson-in-law as well. Twice over. But yeah, so
You're keeping track at home.
yeah. Yeah. I have two sets of step grandparents-in-law on paper. I just call them like grandparents, but yeah, so I now am adopting those into what my core labels are because they're going to lead into my core beliefs and that will follow through with my principles, virtues, and then ultimately my thoughts, behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, all those things will come from that. So my labels, those are like the core ones, and the other ones they're useful, but you know, I could do with them or without them. And some of the like subcategory ones still important. I consider myself like a, you know, retired therapist, or I guess ex-therapist scientist, because, you know, when you're studying psychology, it is a science. So ex-therapist, scientist, ex-athlete, and then I still continue to see myself as a student at all times. So I guess student, I would put it up in like the A category with all of those like family and friends identifiers. But any other labels I could get rid of, like it's an important part of me, but Catholicism, I don't necessarily need that label to walk around. I joke and say I'm Catholic, you know, but But I
You'll catch me at a fish fry.
yeah, that could not be
on
more
all the big
accurate.
holidays.
It's like, what did you give up for Lent? Oh yeah, something that I definitely should not be doing as a human, but like, pop. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, you gave up something that is not food, right? That you put in your mouth. Yeah, that's not food.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my core labels, and I feel like any other label that fits underneath them, if it doesn't fit within those labels, it probably isn't that important. Like Steeler fan, love the Steelers. Diehard Pens fan, love them. But is that gonna give me the best like family life? If it helps, yeah. But I'm not gonna let it get in the way with it. So, but yeah, so subcategories of labels.
You fake Canadian.
Fake Canadian. I am okay. So let's start with that. I am. So does
Well, is he gonna come out of nowhere and tell me he's 5%? 5%
does
Canadian?
well? Let me ask you a question. Does that even matter? Like, I feel like being Canadian isn't even a real thing.
Oh,
Is it? Like-
oh no, you did not just
no,
51st state that. put
No,
those
I'm not
motherfuckers.
doing that. I'm being honest. My grandfather was born and raised in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, when people are like, oh, like, so like, what is your heritage? Like saying Canadian's weird.
I'm Manitoban.
Yeah, I'm Manitoban.
I'm
No.
a Canuck.
Yeah, I'm a Canuck. Yeah, I'm on from Ontario. I don't sound like from Ontario at all.
it's very French in Ontario.
No, I was watching the hockey games and I got this jersey just because they owed me a jersey. And I was like, okay, cool. And then they played the United States. Like, all right, I got to go put this away. I couldn't wear it. Felt like there was going to be a border war or something watching hockey games. But Canadian was not a label I came up with. Just a lot of things that like I've looked to identify with or even laid to the side. Things I wrote down were just stuff like loyal. I find myself to be loyal. Very important to me to be like a friend to everyone. Hardworking. It's funny because I showed you that meme. It's like, oh, here's what hard work gets you. They're just gonna put it on your gravestone. This is what hard
Oh,
work
man.
gets you. Is this guy worked hard. That's it. I wrote down things I've been subjected to. iPad kid.
iPad kid.
Yeah, dude. I feel like
How did I not get that label?
yeah, you are the iPad kid, but I think of me as like, okay, cool. Like I have 5 minutes to burn. Let me just pull up my phone and stare at it. That type of yeah, you know. Zach's been the one to subject me to that.
Might have called you out on it.
Yeah, no. It's something I do to myself. Other things I thought of too, like Brandon's hit a lot. Like you think of your family roles for sure, like whether it's son or brother or whatever it might be, nephew to people, and you always play those roles, and that's important. I like the way Brandon framed it as like, kind of correlating to your belief system. Things that I also threw down would be like I look at myself as like a glue guy in the sense of like trying to keep people together, whether it's at work or my friends, my family, trying to be the guy to always in the past, get folks together or plan things or whatever it might be. I think I've gotten gray hair doing that alone. So, those are things I like and I think are parts of me. One thing that I definitely feel like I've left to the side recently is not being so overcommitted to things. Like overcommitment is a big thing I've left aside just because I feel like not only does it pain me, it's also a pain in the ass to the other people I care about. So like whether it's as recent like Thursday, like we were supposed to get together and I was like, dude, if you're trying to be productive, it's not going to happen with me there.
Yeah.
You're better off without me there on Thursday trying to get things together. And in the past, like I may have just showed up, bitched, kept you from being unproductive, and then like left without getting anything done. And I knew for that, I was like, cool, I need a day to go just relax. And I went home pretty early and just kind of sat there and it was worth it. And I'm sure you were productive nonetheless. So whether it's that or like planning things or like even thinking of my work schedule, like I'm gotten a lot better about like creating barriers for myself and putting those up to make sure I'm taking care of myself and also out of respect for other people too. So those are things that I felt like I've left to the side. And I think the cool thing is like trying to, I was thinking about though, because with you mentioned being like water in the past, and I started thinking about these labels, and I found it really hard to like, you want to be fluid and you want to like continue to learn about yourself and be like that self-scientist like we talked about. And I feel like a label kind of corners you.
Oh,
You know,
it
there's
puts
like
you right into a box.
Yeah, so instead of the fluidity of like being water, there's an expectation of who you're expected to be, with people. And if you continue to play that role, then I just feel like there's that expectation and not that room to grow anymore or to learn about yourself. And that becomes tough for me. Like, this is what people expect from me, so this is how I have to show up every day.
Yeah, I think that was the question that we got stumped on, honestly, of like what value systems to get rid of. That, to me, he hit the nail on the head with his answer for it, and I don't want to steal it from him. But like literally being so locked into these labels, like, okay, like for me, I have this new label of just being a nickel. Now that I know what a nickel is, like
Yeah.
I didn't know that my lineage of that name literally means victory to the people.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, that's hard. Like, I'm like, okay. And literally, supposedly, I did a deep dive into my lineage. And supposedly, my people consistently, like people with the last name Nickel, consistently moved away from persecution, from religion, and like control. And they just constantly kept moving around, like to basically get rid of that.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell does this? Because this literally just like tunes right back into me. I was like, wow, this is weird. Like looking this up, and so that's where like, if I get so laser locked in onto like these labels have to be me, this is who I need to be. For instance, like I had some lady pop up on one of my TikToks at one point in time and tell me I'm a bodhisattva. What the fuck does that actually mean? Like, I don't know, because it's just this random person just tells me you're a bodhisattva. I start doing some digging on what a bodhisattva is. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's also fucking cursed. Like this don't sound like this is cool. Like what? So I can hit nirvana, but I'm just like, nah, I'm chilling till everybody hits nirvana. That's a curse in my opinion. Like, you gotta wait for every last jabroni to figure out their shit, and like, fuck that. So being locked into that label, it's just like, that doesn't sound enjoyable. So that's where being fluid and being able to say like, oh, this is cool. Like someone called me this, but like, I'm gonna hold it there in the back. I'm gonna throw it in the backpack just in case as a tool that maybe I can use later, but I'm not going to put too much weight. It might just be a single piece of paper that I put in that backpack that just says Bodhisattva. It might not be a bunch of other stuff,
Put it in the filing cabinet.
Might not be a textbook.
No. So like that's what I was considering too, was, in a world where growing up, like the whole thought process was, you want to be unique. You want to be like yourself. That was the goal, was like, just be yourself. There's all this pressure to be someone else or identify as someone else. So like, trying to differentiate it. That's why it was tough for me, honestly. Like even this, first bit of like, okay, like think about some labels you subject yourself to, is like, I really never did that. And I don't know if that's at a fault for me. Maybe those are better roles that I can lean into. But like, I just found it hard because like growing up, I was told like, you want to be unique, you want to be yourself. And like, I feel like that's a continuous learning process. So trying to differentiate like being unique, but also like identifying the labels, like, do you think that's possible? I don't know. Like I feel like it went from, okay, there's be yourself, go figure out who you are, lean into those truths about you, but also like in turn, nowadays it's like everyone has to have a label to like, is that to identify with themselves, or like is that just from societal pressure? I don't know. I had some trouble with this one.
I think it, honestly, just for me, it comes from a place of having to put some type of justification to what you're doing. Like there needs to be there has to be some meaning behind, like, why do I subject myself to this frustration?
Yeah.
Or why do I subject myself to X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, it's the rhyme to the reason.
Yeah. But it doesn't make it any less easy to deal with. Like it only makes it more of a challenge, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like and that's where like all of this stuff for me, like as we keep doing these episodes and we keep diving into all these great topics of like personal growth and self-growth, everything comes back to like, this is just getting more miserable. It's just like you become more free because you can let go of all the suffering, you can let go of all of the connection that brings weight onto you, but it doesn't make it any easier. Now it's just like, oh shit, I know all this stuff. All this shit's going to keep coming at me. And I just got to be like, water. And so, no, it doesn't make it any less.
Well, then you're just the water guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Now you're just the last airbender.
Yeah.
I was thinking Bobby Buffet.
Yeah.
High quality.
High quality H2O. Yeah.
Yeah, but like for me, like I put down Morale Maker, that glue that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I feel like that's like, I think about you at work a lot.
oh man,
Going out into the warehouse,
just trying,
chopping it up, man of the people.
man of the people, just trying to like keep things going. I mean, the place I work is an interesting situation, and I'm not going to be able to write a book on this place. There's nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's got its place, you know, but like it's definitely like starting to subject yourself to labels around a workplace. And you're trying to be the guy who's like, oh, I want everyone to feel comfortable to be able to come to me. But, you know, I don't want to be the guy who everybody annoys all fucking day because now they're coming to me because I solve all their problems for them. And it's just I'm the enabler.
Yeah. Well, it's the expectations. Like if I come into work and I've set the expectation that I'm the guy that like people can come to when they have a problem, or like if people are looking for like a, you know, like you said, a morale boost or whatever it might be, then the expectation is that for most people, regardless of how you feel or where you are that day, that like there's no way you're showing up like that every day. So if I have a coworker come to me like, oh, hey, what's up? They're just chatting and like it's just been like I'm burnt out, I've had a rough day at home or whatever it might be, and I come in like those conversations are so tough and you feel an obligation to still be that person because that's what you've portrayed. But on the other side, like it almost takes the humanity out of it. Like I feel like I can't even be a fucking human now. I just have to be this person that people expect me to be. That's why I have trouble with being labels, because I feel like I'm such an emotional person. I do have a hard time channeling emotions in a correct way. So like I think both of you know a lot of times where I'm not hiding a lot of the way I'm feeling. So, you know, that's trying to make sure that I can still be the person I want to be to people, but also understand that there's a human element to it too.
Well, you said it best at one point in time on one of our episodes where like we so often we always look at the bad, the negative, but we don't look at the positive. So like, for instance, being in that situation, because I've been there, I was even there just last week. I wasn't feeling it at all. And I knew people were coming to me, like looking for that like cheeriness. And to the point where like people who have never been like kind of joking more of like came to me and were trying to cheer me up. And I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. But in that time of sitting there and you're like, can't this motherfucker just shut the fuck up? Having the gratitude afterwards or being able to go, damn, I'm so grateful that I was the person who made that person feel better.
Yeah. I guess it's cool to focus on the relationship aspect of it too, because in turn, like you might be subjected to labels that are tough to abide by on a daily basis, but if you have the right relationships with people, then that's cool to see like people are willing to give that back to you if they know that maybe you're not able to show up 100% that day.
Yeah. But that's a challenge, because that's where like you want to be that guy all the time, but you have to be realistic and say, I'm probably not going to be that guy all the time.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be pissed off that I'm not being that guy, now I'm going to shame myself again. Now I'm in the shame box. Now I'm fudged. If I'm in the shame box, there's no coming back from the shame box. Get in the shame box. Yeah, get in the shame box, and you're just done for, dude. That is the pit of despair.
Yeah.
That is the darkness. That is the not good. Like
it's like Slapshot. You ever see Slapshot?
Yeah.
He's like the very beginning. He's like teaching the guy on the news what the penalties are, and he's like, "Oh, so what's the penalty box?" He's, "Oh, you know, you do something bad, you go to the box, you feel shame." Come back out 2 minutes. Yeah. Unfortunately, you don't get out in 2 minutes a lot of the time from the shame box. But work's tough too, though, because you think about like family and friends. Like if they love you, then there's like an understanding that like, you know, those people are there for you. They get that you can't possibly show up every day. But with work, like there's a mask, like the meme I think of the guy like crying behind like the smiling mask of like, I mean, there are days it feels like that, but because you subject yourself to those 8 hours a day of like, hey, this is the role I play in this company. Like it's the human element kind of does get taken out of a lot. You're expected to try to, just be even keel as you can every day. That's a lot for a lot of people.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you said it when you start subjecting yourself to all these labels, like you were talking about, are you or how do you actually be unique? And to me, it would be like, I have a million labels and you never know. And I am the jack of all trades, master of none, but I'm the guy who can do anything or show up in some way, shape, or form for anything at any point in time. So being that person that is going to be a miserable existence, in my opinion, because you're going to be constantly like expected to be this, expected to be that, jumping all around, go, 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 boom, boom, boom. And then all that weight is just shit you're putting into your backpack. And you just got to, oh, shit. Oh, fuck, wrong card. Wrong card. Oh, shit, I'm going to be doing this for the next hour. Trying to pull out the card that I got to play right now, you know? Yeah. So having that subjectiveness on what labels you actually want to be and who you want to continue to portray, I mean, it definitely seems like it's like, oh shit, I want to have this list as refined as possible to the labels that I subject of myself. I can put them, and I'm just going to use a round number that's easy to play with. I got 10 labels. I'm subjecting myself to 10 things, and I got to refine to the point where these 10 labels are exactly who I want to portray to the whole world. Yeah. And can this label be actually intertwined into this? I got to super refine these labels to make sure that I'm bringing who I want to be to the world.
Do you think, is there a difference between the labels that, and I struggle with this too, because I'm thinking through any other label that I could have portrayed to myself, the labels that you choose for yourself and those like paths you want to go down, compared to the ones that you have just slapped onto you. Like I'm thinking of like I saw you wrote perfect child down.
I'm glad you hit that.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that,
this.
Because like I feel like the way you're looking at it is like that's something that you want to lean into. Like you want to like show up the way that you would find fit for your parents or your family, or whatever it might be. On my side, like, not that I think that my siblings or my parents think I'm a perfect child, but I felt like there has always been an expectation of me in certain instances where like that is so hard to show up to everybody. Like, oh, Derek went to school. Derek got a good job. Derek's always on top of his game. He's always busy. He's always doing something great. Dude, those things are so far from there. Like, I did not choose that at all. Like, that just showed up one day. Like, oh, like I look up to Derek. I want to be like Derek. Derek does all this great. Bro, I don't know when y'all decided that was the case, but like that label was like if it was hello, my name is like I'm never putting that shit on, bro. I'm tucking that in the back pocket and no way.
Right.
But, like on your side, like is that more of a focus of that's how you've been portrayed in the past, or is that something more that you want to lean into in the future?
I think it was beautiful that you brought this up, and I greatly appreciate it, because the way I was going to go with this is based on your question of, is this something that you got slapped onto you, or are you slapping it on yourself?
Yeah.
And so that is a perfect scenario of like, when I was in high school and we got done with a lacrosse game or a lacrosse or a lacrosse practice or something, and like, actually it was just games, and like people would want to go out and we'd get done with our game at like 9 o'clock and they want to go try to run that Cinderella license up until 11 p.m. and go hang out and do stuff for 2 hours. When in reality, by the time we got to where the fuck we were going, we had to turn around and go home anyways. But it was fun doing that type of stuff. So when we'd get done with a lacrosse game, there were actual people that would be like, well, Zach's going. Or Zach's parents said he was allowed to go, like, to their parents.
You were that guy.
I was that guy.
If Zach can go, then like, like no trouble will be had if Zach's there.
Arguably, that's kind of where I'm phrasing
Little
it.
did they know.
Little did they know. This was the wildest kid out there. But being that, like, that label that I was trying to put onto myself of being that perfect child, being that perfect kid growing up, trying to make it as easy as possible on my parents, can instantaneously be looked at as the super nerd, just like the dork, you know? And so being the guy who's coming from this society slapping you as, oh, the teacher's pet, or whatever kind of phrase you want to put on or label you want to put on me of being that type of person. To me, it was, I just want to be the best version of myself. I want to be the best version for my parents. And having these types of things come up was like, all right, you're on the right path. You're on the right path.
Yeah.
But it was also like, we don't invite Zach to things that, oh, we want to be doing that Zach's probably not going to join in on, or we don't want to say that Zach's going to not be at something that we know Zach wouldn't go to himself.
Yeah.
And that's where like the goofiness can come into that whole scenario. That's besides the point. The point was the label that I was putting on myself was trying to be the perfect child, but it could easily have negatively affected me of the view that I was being thrown at by like my peers.
Yeah, and even just because when a label looks one way to a certain set of people doesn't mean that it looks the same way to a different set of people.
Right.
And you got to play those cards the right way around certain, and that's especially growing up and not knowing who you truly are. You're still trying to find yourself. That's tough, man. Because like, I want to fit in with people that I like I want to be at school. And, like, I don't want to be looked at as like the dork or whatever. But you want to go back home and not have to answer to your parents for a certain situation you found yourself in. Dude, trying to manage those growing up is tough for sure.
I'm dealing with it right now at 32 years old.
Wow.
32 years old, the company that I work for, arguably, and I don't really care to say this, arguably, if I choose to care and choose to do my job well, it shines too bright of a light. And that frustrates people whose egos get challenged by somebody else being the go-to guy or the one who had the best idea in the room.
Yeah.
And so anytime I try, which is something that I can't, like, you know what frustrates me is when I work for your company and I'm a part of your team, I care more about that company than I think sometimes the actual owners or the management care about that company. And that is stupid. That is so stupid on my part because it has done nothing for me. Caring more about the company has done nothing for me. It has led me to getting fired from the only job that I've ever been fired from when I was doing everything correct. I was making them hand over foot fucking money on every project that I was doing, but an ego and an unfortunate father-son situation canned me from that job. The situation I'm dealing with right now is I came into this company. I was like, dude, I want to be the Evgeny Malkin to your Sidney Crosby. Unfortunately, I'm the Sidney Crosby. He's the Evgeny Malkin. And I'm trying hard to be the Evgeny Malkin and just be the added benefit. And I use this phrase only because I'm from Pittsburgh, and I hope Gino doesn't get mad at me because
think Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, there we go.
You're trying to be Luigi, and unfortunately, you're just fucking Mario.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, bingo. It's a me.
No matter how, it's a you.
It's a me.
Yeah.
If you don't get that one, I don't know.
I don't know either, dude. I really don't. Yeah, no, there ain't no Super Luigi Road. There's some Luigi games. He got his spotlight on the back end of the
mansion.
Yeah, in his twilight years.
But what do you tit like in terms of being the self-author versus having, like, we were just talking about the perfect child and me trying to be a self-author to create that being the perfect child for myself. But I could have easily been attacked by the society that was around me or my peers who would have labeled me and forced me to potentially, like, I don't want to be this type of person because I'm not fitting in. What have you done, self-author versus society? Impeding.
I would say
That's intense, bro. We need a big bold impeding.
I would say, as far as self-authoring, I had kind of, I don't know what kind of moment it was. I was in Foundations of Adulthood and really had me thinking about like your own self-narrative, other people's narratives. And then that was probably around like 2017. And they accepted the idea of, well, we're all just walking around and we have a bunch of universes. Can my universe be a mutual universe with you? kind of, but not really. We're all walk around with our different universes going around, and for me, that self-authoring, it's literally, it's just so funny. I don't know where this came from, but I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me, sticks to you. And it's so funny. I heard that like 4 or 5 years old, but there's so much truth to that of like, yeah, you can say what you want to say, but chances are you're projecting. And at the same time, you don't get to decide what I think. And I think someone has a really good example of self-authoring. I know I've talked about Dr. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, Holocaust survivor, psychiatrist pretending to be a physician to survive. That man said that your last human freedom is your choice to choose how you feel. So Nazis could take away everything from him, but how he chooses to feel about it. So he's like, that's your last human freedom you have, and no one can take that away from you. So I think in the same respect, self-authoring, your identity, your path, everything. And I've definitely had some of that, like, good boy, like, type of roles and labels I've had to fit in. I mean, you've both met my brothers. They're a bit wild. And so imagine us, I've had my moments where I've been expected to be the good boy. We can't afford one more, like, kid misbehaving. Granted, we weren't terrible, but we did have moments. And then for, there's other moments where I got a nickname at work, Scooter, because I'm going back and forth working hard. Same type of deal. It's like, wow, Scooter, you're really sweating. It's like, yeah, no shit, I'm working. What do you want? But there'd be like, literally had moments where I'd have like, a lead come over and another person, they're just like standing over there laughing and giggling. And they're like, wow, man, you're so sweaty. I was like, yeah, well, what do you want? Like, I'm working. Yeah, so I've definitely had some experiences where people are trying to decide for me how to construct my reality. One thing I try not to do, but I can't help myself sometimes, I don't like when people tell me I look like someone other than Corey Matthews and, the brother of him, Fred Savage and Ben Savage. I know I look a lot like them. So, but whenever people are like, oh, you look like this guy, like someone was like, Sammy from Blue Mountain State, I was like, yeah, I've seen the show. I look nothing like him. Thank you for just throwing a label on me so you can feel like you know me.
Oh, yeah. I told you about that. I was working, and one of the older ladies I was standing right next to, she goes, do you know who you look like? And I go, who? And she goes, you look like Ross from Friends. And I go, yeah, I've heard that before. Is it because I have a dark hair and darker features? Like, what? She's like, you just look like Ross from Friends. And I go, I hate Friends, and I think Ross is a douchebag. But whatever. What do I know? What do I know? That's great. Thank you for choosing, like you just said, to identify with me through something that you didn't even ask if I like or even care about or even have ever watched or anything. So good for you. And I'm leaving work, and she couldn't just let it go. Like, I didn't even react well. And I'm leaving. She goes, bye, Ross.
Oh,
like, dog.
She came in for the rebound.
She did. Yeah, she did. Yeah. No, I was thinking about through this too. Like, I think when I was able to, like, this, and Brandon's point about being able to choose how you feel, unfortunately, just changed my entire answer to this question. So thanks for that.
Sorry.
So I think about times where I've been able to carve out enough time to like reflect and understand the areas of growth that I want. And it was more through like COVID times where, like, dude, I was just at home by myself, and I made a very conscious decision as it was occurring very early on that, like, I knew myself well enough that I could just sit at home and self-medicate and chill out and sit here for 18 months and do literally nothing for myself, and decided that wouldn't be the case. I ended up exercising more than I ever had. I got more focused on myself than I ever had. I attracted more good things than I ever had. I got my new job. I felt great about the job I was in. I had so much great things going on. Not that I don't now, but I felt like that was such a big moment of me, like, transitioning into maturity almost. And it was when I was able to actually carve that time aside for myself and not be too busy or whatever I tell myself, at that nowadays, at that time. So I don't feel like a lot of the time, even nowadays, I am not in control or not writing my own story, but I do allow the perceptions of other people to affect me emotionally, which then in turn, so like in my head, I'm like, oh, dude, no way someone's gonna tell me how to fucking act or react or whatever it might be. But I allow those people in the way they may like consider how I act at work or how I perform in a certain manner to affect me emotionally, and then that turns into me in turn, being completely affected by that situation, and it sucks. Like, I think of like victim mentality shit. You and I have talked about a lot of like, oh, dude, this shit would only happen to me. It only happened to me. But if I would just choose to feel differently about the situation, then I control the power in it too. So I think I wrote down to a lot of the. I'm not affected by a lot of the people that I hold a relationship with. I find myself more affected by the people that I don't. So like when I'm driving down the road and someone cuts me off, or someone in passing doesn't do something that I find to be, a societal norm that I think should be accepted, such as like, hold the door for somebody or say like hi when I'm walking by you, like, hey, what's up? And like someone if I'm at the work and I'm like, hey, and they just walk by, I'm like, okay, cool, hello, I'll go like, hey, how are you? And they'll go, I'll just walk by them. Okay, good. Yeah, nice to talk to you. Like, I'll say it out loud. I don't even care at this point. So, I do allow those things to affect me emotionally, and I know in turn that does affect my actions, affects the way I feel, affects the labels I portray on myself. So, like, I do think there's areas where I am in control, and I've seen those lights before, but I don't know if I'm as honest with myself about how other people's thoughts or portrayals of me actually affect me.
How many times did you bitch about that lady calling you Ross the rest of the day?
I brought it up to Brandon. I just brought it up on the podcast. I brought it up to people at work. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. But you're right. And like, did that affect my day? No. But like, am I the same guy that would be on the phone and I'll like be hanging up? They're like, all right, buddy, have a good day. And I'm like, do not call me. I just immediately hang up. Do not call me fucking. I'm not your buddy. I'll just sit there at my desk staring at the computer. Don't call me buddy. I'm not your buddy. Buddy. And like, I'm not your fucking buddy, dude. Like, we're not buddies. You don't want to talk to me. If you were my buddy, we'd be chatting it up, So I do think about a lot of those things too, with even Brandon saying of when you have these different labels or what it might be, you have to consider like, okay, how are you reacting in the right manner to make sure that you are honing in on the emotions to not allow like, hey, dude, like this guy doesn't matter to you. It really doesn't. Or this situation doesn't matter. It doesn't lead you down a different path than you're already on. You still control the narrative. You still control everything in your life. So just trying to figure out exactly how I can harness the emotions that I find on a daily basis into positivity as opposed to negativity. And even the thought process of like self-talk, I think I was just thinking about as well as like, dude, I'll sit there and like, that guy's not talking to me anymore. I'm continuing the narrative in my own mind and pretty unhealthy because it's never like, oh, I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure this is like, if we just chatted outside of work, we'd be friends. He just doesn't want me to sell him anything. No, it's like these, like this self-talk. Yeah, I'm just creating more narrative in my own mind. We'd be buddies. Or not, who the fuck knows? But like trying to make sure that like emotion doesn't control the narrative. Like emotion isn't me. Like that isn't who I am. So making sure I'm more focused on that is something that I think will help differentiate that.
Yeah, that's how this podcast got started for me. Was the self-authoring. Like I know that for the longest time I was trying to really create my reality. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be the perfect child. I'm gonna get the great grades. I'm gonna get a scholarship. Oh man, I'm gonna get a scholarship for athletics, and I'm gonna go, and this is gonna be awesome. And then none of that happens, and you're sitting there like, oh shit, you know. You got the good grades, you graduated, you had fun, you did all the stuff. You could have went, did all these different things, and then you're starting to look at the finances and you're like, oh shit, hell no. So now, going through my 20s, like heavily self-medicated myself in terms of just trying to find myself and grow and whatnot. And had my nice little Saturn returns at 27. And just now, we've been cooking for the last 5 years, and we're making moves, dude. Like, this podcast is the whole premise of Dismount is literally, I felt like I was living a life that I wasn't fully conscious of. Like, was I aware of, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to become this, all these different things? Sure. But was I really, truly conscious of drinking the Disney Kool-Aid like I did when I was a little kid, of just anything you believe in, you can create and become? No, I was not drinking my own Kool-Aid. I was drinking some other Kool-Aid that was just poisoning my body. You know? And so now, like, giving that opportunity to be that self-scientist is where now we can start to say, boom, 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 fuck these labels. I'm going to subject myself to only these certain ones because these are the ones that are building me towards what I'm actually trying to create.
Yeah, and
But there's that balance, dude, is challenging.
yeah, the hope is that with clarity in the labels you want to portray, that you'll just attract the right people around you. That you won't have to worry about the relationships where it's like, oh man, okay, well, I really want to focus on this side of me, but I'm worried about how this person will react or how this relationship will be affected. But the hope is that as you try to identify your true self, then you'll just bring out the right people around you and who's supposed to be there. You kind of weed that out.
How do I be how do I have emotions but be emotionless? That is the challenge, I think. Because that's
That doesn't
right
even
where
make sense. Well, that's my issue. That doesn't even make sense to me.
Right.
It doesn't even make sense. Like I got all this. Like it's like how can I be rich and spend no money? What? I got all this. I got all this anger, bro. I just want to fucking woof. But like I don't. You're right. But I think that's where I have been focused, is channeling that into a positive manner. Like, am I pissed off? Cool. Do something about it constructively, not like do something about it out of spite or anger in a way that you're going to regret and make the situation worse.
You brought the perfect answer to this next question of, do you hold any values regarding social etiquette and empathy?
I think my not main ones, but the ones that are at the surface of my conscience. Because as soon as I started writing it, I was like, man, you could probably write for days on this. And I was like, yeah, but I'm getting writer's block, so I probably only got like 4 or 5. So I treat others as you wish to be treated. Listen more than you speak. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. Don't judge a book by its cover. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. And then I have one more to add, because when we talk about ethical decision-making models, it's one of my principles, autonomy. Everyone has the right to fuck up their own lives.
Yeah.
That was one of the things as a counselor I struggled with, because I would overextend. I'm trying to make, kind of like the bodhisattva you're talking about. I'm not calling myself one of those. I'm just using as an example. But you're trying to elevate people, and then you're stressing yourself out because you can't get them to where you're trying to get them. And it's like, no. You trying to convince them that they should have a certain reality is stupid. And someone might argue it's blasphemous. Yeah. Why should I give you a better reality? Like, I could try, but I should not stress over trying to give you one. No. I need to teach you to fish. I can't just bring you fish every day.
Yeah.
But
and you get paid. You got paid to do that, dude. Now imagine like just your day-to-day interactions where you're overextending yourself.
Yeah. Then people
and not to
show
say
up
that
and
that
take it
didn't affect
personally.
you emotionally, obviously, but like, man, it's just like there's so much weight to that of like trying to make sure you're taking care of the gander instead of yourself. When you even talking about overextending myself, no, I even realize that I'm probably doing worse by overextending than I am taking care of myself and then presenting my best version of me to the people I care about or those interactions I care about.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was kind of fucked up trying to overextend. So I think now that I'm a little bit older, I actually probably could be a pretty good therapist, because I could probably separate myself well now, but I don't want to. I have no interest in doing it now. But if someone does, don't let me be a negative Nancy. Go for it. But but yeah, I try to just make sure that I'm putting myself in other people's shoes. Don't try to force somebody into doing something that's not them. Just let people live their own realities, steer them a little bit, give them advice, and then just let them fish.
The treat others the way you want to be treated. I was like, oh my gosh, how the hell did I not write this one down? I saw his notes. I was like, oh my goodness. Mine were totally like love over everything. Trying to all of my actions and movements through life and decisions be more heart centered. And then last one for me was people remember how you treat them over everything else. And that was like, sometimes, I mean, my last one actually is like trying to keep certain things at arm's length because I know myself and I know my highly, highly addictive personality to literally just like get sucked back into something or get sucked into something so easily. And that can just lead me down rabbit holes that like he said, only you can fuck up your life.
Yeah, it's so easy to keep things at arm's length until you don't, and then trying to then push them back out is crazy, dude. Like even trying to think of exercise, like just even exercise for me, cool. I want to keep that lazy, I don't feel like doing it mentality away because I know the second that I just let that arm come back and then it's a part of me again, trying to dig myself back out of that hole, like dude, even the addiction to just comfort or complacency, dude, it's crazy for me. So just making sure that you are continuing to align yourself with like who you want to be, like, and I think just by like setting goals or intentions or writing down your things, like I know that's been a big point of emphasis for you, but I think that helps reaffirm who you are trying to be, because it's not easy, dude. We talk about emotions, like if you let emotions sit in the driver's seat, but you have a list of shit to do, like, and that shit is just in your head, good fucking luck. Now, if you have those things written down, you just have to look at them like, I did make this promise to myself. I did say I wasn't going to do this. Like, you have to answer to yourself, but writing it down and putting it out in the universe as opposed into the imaginary fucking road of your head, completely different scenario.
Oh, I think it's a huge difference. But we've talked about it before, is putting that stuff down on paper and then not getting emotional and shaming yourself afterwards when you don't accomplish all of it.
Yeah.
That's the next challenge. So there's always a challenge like, oh, great. I'm going to do all this great work for myself. Ah, shit. How am I going to do all this great work for myself?
Yeah. No, being easy on yourself too. Like just understanding that you're a human. Like I was thinking back with like you mentioning the perfect child scenario, not to go back to that too much, but like thinking of like, and this isn't at fault of my dad. My dad just wanted the best version of me. But I felt a lot of the time that it wasn't trying to get the best version of me out. It was trying to create the perfect person. And that, like, I still catch myself falling victim to that of like, when I go to work, like if I am not the absolute best compared to everybody else, then I have fallen short. And that might just say in a certain situation that if I'm just not the best version of me, that might not mean I'm the best out of everybody. Being the best version of me does not equal the best out of all the people I compare myself to. But I felt like a lot of the time, like, oh, like if I'm playing soccer, it's like, oh, you could have did this differently or this differently. Are you really like going out there and giving it your all, or like thinking in school or work or whatever? And I kept that voice in my head of like, okay, you got to make sure you're the best, the best, the best, the best. But like, there's only so much of a ceiling in certain scenarios that you'll hit, and like trying to break through that, like you find that it's just not the case. And that kind of repetition of like, okay, you're a human being, dude. Like there's the best doesn't equal the best in the way that you think it does. There's a completely different narrative to that. It's very interesting to me. I find myself trying to make sure that I'm like, just be the best version of you can be that day. And that's the goal. And that's it. I feel like I'll get a lot more production out of that than I will be is like, all right, I'm not the best today. Fuck. Like, that guy's still better than me. What am I going to do? Oh my God, the world's ending. I'm going to die. Like, because that's the soundtrack, bro. Like, so trying to be focused on me just being the best version of me that day, whether it was compared to yesterday or tomorrow, what that looks like, and just trying to show up that day has been the goal.
I'm stealing Titty's thunder, but like that's where like the having all of the value systems that are aligned for you and not have like your systems are so laser locked in that you can't transition, because I think that all of that stems from yours, which I didn't see this until just now.
What's that?
The religion.
Oh, yeah.
Throw that shit out the damn window.
I know,
dude.
it's so crazy. But I'll get to that 1 second. So I was going to say with like social etiquette stuff too, like 100% Brandon on the like you want to interact with people in a way that you would want for them to interact with you. So just be the kind of person you'd want to interact with, and you're solid. But like you will fall victim to like if you leave that door open long enough for people, like, and you don't close it when you feel that it should be closed, you're gonna screw yourself over. Like if you don't understand, like I'm gonna give you the same opportunity I give anybody, but the second you give me one reason to do so, I gotta close that door. If you don't stay to that role, you are opening yourself up to way too much negativity, way too many scenarios where again, like they were thinking, or like you find yourself like not aligning with who you might want to be. Like that's really tough. I thought about there's a play. Like Art Rooney's like a one-man show. The guy who bought the Steelers. It was the North Side Golden Rule. Do you know what it is, Tit?
No, wait, what's the?
It's don't let them mistake your kindness for weakness.
Yep,
That's it. That's all it is. So cool. Like you can be kind to everybody. You should be kind to everybody. That's like the number one rule. Like be the person you'd want to, interact with. But on the other side is the second you're given the opportunity to say, okay, cool, I got to shut it off. Like you have to take that. You have to seize that opportunity because then you will be taken advantage of and then you're worse off for it.
there's another thing I was gonna write it down, but it sounded a little bit like hostile. But it says the same thing: be nice until it's time to not be nice.
That's it. And I do pride myself in that. Like I've always given everyone the same exact opportunity, no matter who they are, until they've given me a reason not to. And I've been very good at shutting that off.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That was a golden nugget, dog.
Yeah, dog. Thanks, dude. Yeah, clip
Yeah.
that chat. But oh god, thinking of religion, dude. And I'm just thinking of like again, not a negative portrayal of my father. My father always wanted the best out of me. And he got me a lot of places I never would have put myself, just with that mentality of like always trying to be the best. But a negative portrayal of that same kind of tone is for me religion. Like we grew up in Catholic schools. Did you go to church growing up?
Yeah, I had CCD.
Oh.
So
They're like it's like the it's like mini Catholic school for kids who went to public school.
yeah. Every Wednesday night.
Every Wednesday night.
Oh, good. I thought you were gonna have
That's
to go on
almost-
Sunday.
That's
No,
almost
no.
worse than going to Catholic school. Period.
You gotta go to more school after school.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think about like Catholicism as like it's so sad because like if you think of like just the messages that come from the Bible. I'm thinking more of like a Jesus tone instead of New Testament. Old Testament, I have some questions for, but we'll say New Testament. So much beauty to it, so many lessons you can learn. And even the Old Testament, like parables or whatever, or like Psalms, like there's so much good in there. And that's why like I used to laugh at people who like on Instagram, like, oh, here's my Bible verse of the day. I'm like, fucking loser. Oh, dude, that's cool, dude. All right, whatever. So nowadays, like I've changed that. And I think there's so much knowledge in like religion, whether it's Catholicism, any other type of religion. Like I think like they're actually a lot more intertwined than, I even originally thought, right?
Yeah.
That being said, the institutionalized side of it is what completely bums me out. And I'm not going to get into it. It's not like this part of the episode, but it's or this episode in general, but just thinking of like the fear and like this ability of like, okay, if God loves me and he wants to create this all loving earth, then like, why am I just worried about going to hell all the time? Like, and there's like he died for your sins and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, this is like for a 13-year-old kid, all I know is if I don't do this, and this, or if I do this, and this, it's heaven or hell, white, black. That's it. You like, there is no other option. And like that shit, I'm sorry, it is unhealthy for children. It's unhealthy for people growing up. And I think like, and then you think about, okay, oh, this is actually just for money, and people just want to be like, it could be like the healthcare system where it's like, oh, let's just keep people sick. Like it's kind of the same thing. It's let's keep people mentally ill and investing their money into the church, and we'll just make a ton of money. And as long as people feel like they're in fear or they're not good enough, then they'll just keep coming here and throwing 20s in the basket. I mean, that's how I feel. So realistically, like thinking about value systems, like you don't need to go to church every Sunday to be a good person. You don't. And like, I'm not taking away from people who go to church. I know a lot of people go to church and they find incredible value in it. And if you go to church for the right reasons, great. But if you go to church out of fear or thinking you're not good enough, then I don't relate to that at all.
You said that beautifully.
Thank you.
Wow.
I think I wasn't awake until like 5 minutes ago.
All I gotta say is you attacked that so beautifully.
Thank you.
Like it was so well. Yeah. Wow.
And not hostile.
I can't say anything after that.
Well,
Because
you don't have anything to say about this
I
question.
don't have anything
All right.
to say about this.
Then I will say.
Holy Holy cow, dude.
I'll answer what we've been alluding to for probably like 20 minutes about evolving. I think there's a smorgasbord of different value systems out there. And honestly, I'm an advocate for having value systems. Almost any value system is better than not having a value system. Be careful with that. But
Say that again.
having any value system is almost better than having no value system. And then I
Almost.
was like, careful on that one. But I think one of the ones that kind of needs to be casted out is if there's one that doesn't evolve or just have the flexibility to take in new information and adapt. Some critics might say, well, then that's not a good value system if it could bend and break. I'm like, that's your opinion.
Yeah.
But mine are guided on principles that don't really change, but they can be interpreted differently. We'll get to it probably in a question or two, but autonomy is one of mine. Non-maleficence, do no harm, and beneficence, or I think that's it, but do good. Do good unto others. Like, it's just try to help people, try not to hurt people, and don't inflict on people's freedoms. And then I try to model all my ethical decision-making models after that. And if I don't know what to do, I'm like, all right, revisit your principles. And I'll revisit those 3 and try to prioritize them. And I'm like, which one is a priority in this instance? And it might be, you might compromise someone's freedom just to save them from hurting themselves. But like if somebody's ready to jump and I'm walking by a bridge, they don't see me, I'm grabbing their shirt and yanking them onto the ground. Like if somebody's going to jump off a bridge. So if they hurt their back, falling on the sidewalk, I'm not going to, but in that instance, I'm not going to let somebody fuck up their life. Jump. They might be like, yeah, thanks, asshole. I was going to be happy. Maybe.
Maybe. I think about Zach, I was going to say, sorry, about you just mentioned following your heart too. Like, I feel like a lot of these value systems are important for people, sure, but I feel like we all, you learn most of the shit in preschool, dude. Like, I feel like you're kind of built up to the point where if you would just listen to your heart, then you really don't need like some type of book or institutionalized program to tell you this is how you should act. Like, if people would just spend more time following their heart, and again, I don't do it, so don't listen to me, but like realistically, I would think, okay, if my heart's always telling me the right way to go, my brain's the one that's always getting in the way. Like, because you start adding logic to emotion, and it's like, well, I know the right thing to do for Brandon would be to help him out with the task that he needed help with. But I also remember that one time that Brandon didn't show up for me, and now I'm going, you know what? Fuck Brandon. I don't give a shit. Like, Brandon's not a great person. Brandon would never do this for me. Remember that time he didn't show up? Yeah, and then I'll just start thinking, I'm like, you know what? No, screw it. And that you add that logic into it, but where if you would just follow your heart, and maybe I rekindle that relationship with Brandon. Maybe Brandon's more prone to show up for me the next time. Like, there's so much to be said about just guiding yourself with what you truly believe and getting out of your own way than it is just have someone else tell you what to do.
So how do you go into multiple different friends groups, family groups, your significant others' families? How do you walk into all these different, your workplace, and be able to justify having multiple label systems?
Dude, I don't justify. It sucks because
Just saw gray hair pop out.
Yeah, there's no, it's true. There is no way of, I mean, there is a way. There's a way to be your authentic self in every situation. It's probably not productive. It's probably not the way I would recommend going. If I walked into my boss's office and talked to him, and like we're 90% there, but if he saw the other 10%, probably wouldn't work there. Half joking, but realistically, like the thought process there is like, if I think of like the way I interact with like, elders, like older people, and like the way they were brought up, and knowing that society has changed that way, or like interact with authority figures at work, like I am my authentic self, but like you kind of have that shield up a little bit, right? And then I think about even like parents or my girlfriend's parents. Like, I want to portray, when I'm interacting with my girlfriend's parents, I'm trying to portray the most authentic but also like best version of myself at all times, where if I go back home and it's just me and my girlfriend, like that's relaxed, it's I'm not the same. So trying to manage those is tough, and I don't know, like I feel like you might lean more towards being your authentic self in all situations more than most people would. So I'm interested to see what you would say. But I feel like that's something that people have to deal with, is the fact that like you do have to wear those different hats in social situations.
I think unfortunate for me is I've been so good at wearing so many masks that I can make it look like I'm being authentic.
I've been there. Yeah. Yeah.
How the hell do you do it?
That's enough.
I'm still stuck in like good boy, good student a lot. I definitely, yeah, it's funny.
It's like you scratch your head.
Or good worker. Yeah, I feel like maybe instead of good boy, I've evolved good worker. Good worker, good son, good husband. Like a lot of these things, as you said, like percentage wise, I was like, wow, that is really like good intel to think about, because as a manager, I can't walk around and talk the same way I talk with you guys. Like, granted, I have like blurred the lines a little bit, and you know, as people get more comfortable around me, I get more comfortable around them. Then I can blur the lines. But I think you pointed out really well of like percentages, and I think about, man, it is hard to be my authentic self whenever I got to be my professional self.
Mhm.
And sometimes there's a give and take, but a lot of times it's like good worker, you know, don't give him an inch to run with, you know, because
I'm sorry. I was talking to the husband of a COO of a company yesterday at the game. I was talking to her about buying tickets for the company. So she's there, her daughter's there, and then her husband's there, and then there's an empty seat. So I'm talking to the husband, just trying to. I didn't have anything else to say about the work, so I was just talking to him, and like I'm putting up the smile. I'm like, oh yeah. Da, da, da. And my buddy Philip walks by, and he's going to talk to his prospect, and I go, dude, fucking Sal from Impractical Jokers is over there. And I go, dude, you just put the whole fucking shield down. You're just out here cussing. You're going, Sal, you put the Yinzer flare in it, dude. I go, Sal fucking's over there. I'm like, I just dropped the hardest F-bomb in a client meeting that I ever had before. And it's like, the dude was perfectly fine, but like, I did have a shield up already. You know what I mean? I had a mask on, and like, dude, I think like what I wrote too, like the keys, like, realistically being open-minded enough to understand that everyone isn't going to have the same beliefs or acts the same way, but like still having the respect in the situation to understand that. So like that guy was cool with me. Like we were perfectly fine, but like in a different situation, like you got to make sure, and I can offer that same respect. I don't know if he's going to feel the same way. So that's why I feel like we're on pins and needles a lot of the time, is like, yeah, I like no matter how you act, like we're cool, dude. I've seen it all, but how are you going to portray me? And that's why you put the hat on.
I feel like we also are all engaging in social agreements, and there's a lot of conscious transactions and subconscious transactions. I don't know if I want to use the word subconscious or unconscious. I don't know. But somewhere that we're not aware, we have a lot of social transaction agreements. And then, you know, part of it is like, you know, don't make too much noise. And that kind of is grounding us, like, from our parenting right off the bat. This is like, don't make too much noise. Don't upset anybody. Don't do these things. Don't be wild. Don't be too much of yourself. Like everybody's like, be yourself, but don't be like eccentric. But then, you know, there are opportunities for us. And then there's a lot of times where we have these social transactions and agreements where there's just an etiquette to it. And sometimes you might be the guy on the other side of the fence. You get pissed off at somebody for just wilding out. And it's like, you know, is it jealousy? Is it, you know, the fact that maybe it is a lot of jealousy. You know, you see somebody running through the street. I was dying in Ohio. I've never been yelled at for jaywalking, but I found it hilarious because Pittsburgh is notorious for jaywalking. It's a thing. And Trisha and I, we go across the street, and the person went down to their window, jaywalkers! And it was
Shame.
It was so funny. We didn't even feel embarrassed or anything. We were just cracking up, and we're like, oh, maybe they're jealous.
Yeah.
We didn't impede them. They were far enough down the way, but we didn't use the crosswalk that was like, I don't know, it was 100 feet away, and there's no car nearby. So we're just like, yeah, we're just going to walk across to our car directly across from the sidewalk. But, yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of social transactions that kind of we often account for, and sometimes they impede us acting as our true selves.
Yeah, the don't let them mistake your kindness for weakness still portrays here too. Is like I'm willing to give you the respect to understand who you are and what your beliefs are, and be totally open to that. And I would hope the same for me. But I'm still a strong person and have strong beliefs. And if those start to conflict, or you look at me as a lesser person because of that, like that's when the door has to close for sure.
I think of the time when I told or called a customer to see you next Tuesday, and then became good friends with him because of it. And it just like I was being my authentic self. I had had enough of dealing with this guy because he's just a lot. He's a lot. He's got a big personality. So I was coming to see him on Tuesday. So at the end of the email, I wrote, "See you next Tuesday." It was like a Thursday or a Friday, and I wrote, "See you next Tuesday."
Did you put an exclamation point at the end?
No, I didn't. I might have. Actually, I might have. We'll have to go back to the tape on that one. I think I have that email printed out downstairs.
Caps on each word.
And so
That's how I imagine my see you next Tuesday. SY whatever NT all capitalized. And if you were feeling a little flair, a little C and a U in the next two. But who who's could
look
you,
at this.
What if you did chow? Chow, you next.
I like to imagine my baby Jesus.
Last chow.
But I broke down that barrier real quick whenever he came up to me, and he goes, "Zach, just want to talk to you about that email you sent me last week. You were calling me a cunt in your email." And I was like, "Nah, I have no clue what you're talking about." He goes, "No, see you next Tuesday stands for like, CUNT." And like, obviously that's a word, and like, it means like someone who's a piece of work.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty big piece of work. So I really appreciated you calling me out like that. And like, that was funny. That was slick. I saw
I see
you.
you.
Did that.
Hey.
Did you know what that stood for? Like, yeah, I did. I did. I knew exactly what I was doing. And like, I got to break down that barrier, but like trying to be that slick little self of like, I technically was. I was coming on Tuesday to see him. So I was, see you next Tuesday.
What did you want me to say?
I'd have been just pumping like, man, that was really clever. Aside from saying it, I really appreciate the pun.
Yeah.
But how do you like, I was just thinking of like, being your most authentic self and trying to break down those barriers of like being in a professional setting and being the person who like, okay, that guy is so damn good at what he does that he doesn't have to act like he's prim and proper.
Yeah.
Like your work ethic, your status, what you bring to the table, like when I feel like when you've become such a badass is that there is nothing that anybody can actually tell you like, oh,
well, not to put the smoke up your ass, but that's why I was relating that more towards you, right? Because like I think that's, you find yourself a little bit in that situation where it's like I kind of like, I know my worth to this certain situation. I'm not so worried about what they think of me. Like I'm gonna lay it all out on the table. And on my side, like I think I'm getting there, but I think there is still like a reserve, like there is still a conscious decision on how to manage certain situations for me, for sure.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's still the same for you, but I think you're right. Is like, and I don't think this relates to me, but I feel like a lot of the times in those situations too, it's because you feel less than like the way you want to be portrayed. And whether that's just yourself telling you that, or your actions don't speak for yourself enough to be able to stand on those alone, that you have to kind of just portray yourself in a certain manner. Because a lot of time it's like, not only, God, you see it too. It's not only just, I'm kind of middle of the road. I don't want to be like looked at like less than or more than, but like, I guess I've seen people do the more than. They overemphasize, they overact to make up for the lack of work they put in or the lack of ability they have. And I hate those people. I don't like you. I'm sorry if you're listening. I don't like you because like there's no belief in yourself. There's no belief in what you bring to the table. So not only do I have to, over assert myself in a certain situation, but a lot of times it's at the deficit of other people. You're putting other people under the bus or whatever it might be, and I just feel like with those situations, the light comes out eventually.
Yeah, you're a piece of work.
Yeah, you're a piece of work. So, what was the last week? We like, what was it about cherry picking? the value systems. We're trying to think what we had to cap it off.
How
How do you cherry pick? How do you cherry pick and build yourself?
to and not like it supersedes society's need to conform.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean I thought a lot about it, and I was thinking back. Brandon will love in high school. Talking back to teachers and me getting in trouble all the time.
Hilarious.
Like there's
I
always
would be doing something and Derek would get in trouble for the same thing and he'd be like, he's doing it right here. And I'm like,
yeah. So I think like that like breaking free mentality or whatever it may be is like just being honest enough to keep learning and those types of situations. Like I think of like, you know, that specific instance of me like talking back to teacher and like having that like rebellious instance. So like put everything aside I just said about like wanting to like not conform but portray myself in the right manner. I still have that flair about me that like I won't be anyone but myself in situations, and I feel like that gets me into trouble. Like my dad always said growing up, your mouth is gonna get you into trouble one day. I'm still waiting, Dad, by the way. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm waiting to go to jail or something or be persecuted or exiled or something. I'm not sure what I thought was gonna come from that situation. But thinking a lot about, you know, making sure that you're still authentic in those situations and not letting someone tell you like the way you need to act, especially if you feel like you're wronged in a situation. The second I feel wronged in a situation, all fucking cards on the table, dude. I'm all in on making sure that you know I don't feel that certain way. And that does get me into trouble sometimes of you know, maybe like belief systems don't add up, or if it's I think a lot about work and like not that I get into trouble, but it's like man, like I feel like you aren't seeing what I'm seeing and I have no other way of portraying it. I based off what you told me, you completely see your side as being correct and my side as being incorrect, and I just can't stand for it. So now you're gonna get the worst of me out of it, unfortunately.
You've never been punched in the face.
Me?
I could
I've
definitely
been
see
punched
your
in the
brother
face.
get
Okay.
you quite
Yeah,
a
my
few.
brother's been punched in the face. Joe Dreves punched me in the face once.
I was gonna say, I was
Joe.
like,
I've been punched in the face, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But like in trouble, like punch in the face. Is there trouble? Right? You can punch me in the face right now. I'll be all right. You know? But outside of that, like real trouble, like someone's like, I'm going to fucking kill you trouble. No, I've never been there. I've seen people be there before. I've been like, yeah, I'm pretty good at talking. Yeah, I'll talk my way out of this one. What about y'all?
go ahead, Tit.
So this I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, but it's all about values and figuring out which ones you kind of want to keep and hold on to and which ones will stand the test of time. The three for me is to stand the test of time. I mentioned autonomy, do no harm, and try to do good for others. If I'm getting societal pressure, honestly, that takes the weight off of my shoulders. If I'm having a hard time trying to figure out, what do I think about this? I'll fall back on my principles and values. And Stephen Covey, I think it's 8 Habits of Highly Successful People, or it's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Give me one sec.
Who's counting?
7. I knew it was right there.
Number 8, remember the 7 habits.
Actually, it is something like that. Because I have a CD, it says the 8th habit. But one of the habits in there is like put first things first. Don't put a ladder up one wall if it's on the wrong wall. Like, there's a lot of things that I fall back on, and I use them in defense. So then that way, if something's happening, honestly, I could call it out and be like, yeah, that does not fall in line with my principles. And a lot of people really respect that. If you tell someone you're a principle-based person and that you follow that, you're like, I'm sorry, that goes against all of my principles. And then people usually shut the hell up, and they're just like, well, what principle? Oh, yeah, autonomy. I believe everybody has the right to fuck up their own lives, and it's not my responsibility to stop them, but I try. And do no harm, do good. I'm like, if you just adopt these, then if you adopt those 3 things, it'll take a lot of the mental strain off of you. If you just externalize it to, hey, these are things I agree with, and we'll see what interpretation it comes to with reality. There's also 2 other things that I like to throw out there. One of the things I wrote down, someone else's words: if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. I think that's almost as important as the next one from, I think it's Victor Hugo: change the leaves, keep the roots intact. You should evolve, your principles should, but try to keep who you are, try to find who you are and try to keep it. And then if it seems like it's not aligning with those principles, evolve. You know, the worst thing is if you go through life and you are so rigid and stuck in what you believed when you were like 9 years old, you might have a rough life. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mine is not giving a fuck at all what people think of you allows you to then start to be able to pick those. But that is a bold statement, because then if you're not giving a fuck what anybody thinks of you, then you're not actually picking any labels. Because what's the point of having a label if I don't care what anybody thinks of me?
Yeah.
However, at one point in time, Titty said it on one of the episodes was, have some damn shame, kids. And it was the college kids that were being so reckless in the in tailgating. And so, like, I feel like you have to have a little bit of shame to then allow you to step into some of those different actual avenues. However, that shame is not something that needs to be this weight that you carry around. That shame is just, I need to hold myself accountable to the things that I wanted to hold myself accountable to. So I'm not going to shame myself because I didn't accomplish those, but I'm going to use that shame as a positive driver to accomplish those things or to be that type of person that I want to be. And I think this is right where, like, personal self-reflection and awareness is like, this is like the 0 point of that. And this is now the point where I have the ability to start picking those avenues that I want to go down, putting on those "hello, my name is" stickers all over my body and choosing which ones I am and who I'm going to be. But it's not an easy process.
No, have the courage to rip a sticker off and put a new one on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because you're always learning. That's why I felt like talking about like the water situation. It's a lot, man, because the real OGs out there are the ones that you're right. Like, they don't give a fuck. Like, they will be out there saying, hey, I'm not really worried about what you think. I realize that this is better for me. This is more in tune with who I am. And I just made that decision. And having the courage enough to just rip that one off and slap a new one on and say, hey, if you want to be around for the ride, man, cool. If not, then, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I think the master self-scientist that we were talking about last week, or last episode, is the master of the labeling, is the guy who creates his own labels.
What's that little doohickey called that you used to make labels?
Label maker?
No, okay. No, there's I forget, whatever. We'll move on from that. Label maker. Jesus fucking Christ.
I was like, I don't know.
So this was an absolutely fantastic talk about labels. Get in the box. Yeah,
label maker. You fucking label maker. There was a thing. It was like you had a little machine. Do you remember these? We were like, you had a Michaels and like you would type it in. It would just smack out a label. You can put it on. There was a name for it. I don't remember the name.
Label maker?
Yeah,
God damn it.
it's a Dymo.
The Dymo
The
label.
Dymo label.
Those are
maker.
look like, a little handheld thing. And you pop a label out. Asshole.
I need one of those.
Oh, man.
Yeah, asshole for making fun of him, called it a label maker. Just 'cause you just wanted the...
And I didn't know the name. Yeah. Boom.
All right, y'all. This was an absolutely fantastic talk on labels. Get in the box. We got Brandon. We got Derry. We got myself, Zach. And as we always say, don't trust us. Trust yourself. We're just along for the ride with you. Eat up our bullshit to help you with your bullshit. All right, y'all. You got anything to add on the way out?
Thank you, guys.
Later.
Peace out, y'all.
Thanks again for tuning into episode 39, Labels. Don't hesitate to catch the gang's next release, episode 40, Empathy, the Art of Connecting. The guys get together and they discuss all those topics around empathy. How is it defined to you? How do we understand it? What is it? Sympathy, compassion, and apathy? Well, the gang dives into it, and we see how things go. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you.